I like many collectible card games, like Magic the Gathering for example, but I am at a point in life where I'm interested in experience the game much more than the meta game. That is, I don't have the time and inclination to do all the research and all the planning that it takes to create a perfect deck. Which, mind you, for people that like this style of game, it's a big part of the experience. They love to make the decks and they love to play with them. I simply prefer to play with decks that are already made. And luckily enough, with Magic the Gathering, there are many options. My daughter Amelia and my daughter is 8, play Magic the Gathering a lot, and we played with pre-made decks, with Planeswalker decks, with dual decks. There are a lot of options for that. We have a good collection. We simply grab decks that are already been made and we play like that. Then these days we also have Keyforge, which again is a similar game, has several concepts in common with other card games of this type, other dual type of card games, and the beauty of it is that, again, pre-constructed decks. Now, for people that, like me, like the game more than the metagame, you want to get a deck, grab a deck and play the game, the fine folks behind Magic the Gathering have given us even more options. With this box here that I cited in my friendly local game store, it is called Magic the Gathering Game Night. The tagline, play Magic with 2 to 5 players right out of the box. And the box, the set, does exactly what it promises. You find 5 decks in here, they're pre-made, they're balanced pretty well, and you find all of the other components that you need to play the game. So it's a really good set for somebody who just wants to start, because this way, well, you get to play the game with what you have in this box and you do not need to add anything else. Also, it's $5, 1 per color, so you get to try all of the different colors. These are fairly basic decks. There are no planeswalkers, there are no very complicated cards. Each deck is a single color, so you really get a sense of what the color does. So really, they're very good for introductory level players, for somebody who does not know the game. And it's because of that, there will be people that will be very attracted to it. Also, however, it is not going to be a crowd pleaser, because for advanced players, these decks will probably feel a little too basic. In any case, without further ado, let me show you a little more up close what you find in Magic the Gathering Game Night box. Let's see what you find in the box of Magic the Gathering Game Night. First, you find a rule book, a full rule book. So really, if you're a beginner of Magic, you actually can learn the game from the rule book much better than from some of the standard little sheets that you find in some decks. You don't have the full glossary, but still, it's probably the best printed introduction to Magic that I've seen in a while. You have token cards that will allow you to keep track of effects that require tokens. They are double-sided and they're tailored to the token-based effects in the decks that you find here. You have these tokens here that you assign to players. Say I am using the green deck and you're using the black deck, and we take that. We have counters to keep track of how many life points we have left. Where's the little fork? Where's the little fork? Here's the fork. That everybody knows means 20. You have counters to keep track of modifiers. Really, it's everything is in here. When they say everything you need to play is in the box, it really does, including those things for which usually you have to repurpose tokens from other places. And then, of course, we have 5 decks. These decks are really not fancy. Each deck has 1 color, so you know what to expect. Each deck comes with a general presentation of the kind of features you can expect in that deck, like you can see here. And the other side of this card also can be used as a player aid, that tells you what happens during your turn. And then you have the cards themselves. You shuffle them, well, I think you know what happens next. And then you play the game. So, really all that you need to play the game. As for the decks, again, I'm just gonna give you a brief look at them, pretty much to show you how quote-unquote normal, predictable, basic these cards are. They, of course, are based on Modern Magic. The green player will have big beasts, dinosaurs, elves, this kind of stuff. Some constructs, but not too many. It's the red player that has more of those. Again, I would say most of these are common, with some rare, some fancy cards are particularly powerful. But again, nothing too difficult to use. Here we have some, maybe some of the more interesting cards, some of the most interesting beasts. Green. Green on these beginner stack is possibly the most beginner friendly. The other one that is very beginner friendly, is very straightforward, very intuitive, is the white deck, and my daughter Amelia likes that a lot. It's also powerful because it has a lot of flying creatures, and not every deck does so. Here the green player has some creatures with reach, and that could be useful when you start having angels plunging, or flying dwarfs plunging from the sky and attacking your players, your creatures. Again, very basic creatures, creatures that allow you to summon token creatures. If you are a hardcore player of Magic, this overview tells you of what's quote-unquote the cards that you have in a bazillion copies, and probably you don't need this set. Or maybe nothing else here, then if you can find the full list, you get a suggestion of how to put together a very simple, yes, but also very playable, very fun, very effective beginner's deck. Serra Angel, she has been a thorn in my side since the 90s. The art has changed, but she has always been a very powerful character, and I don't play with white much, so that's it. That's why I see her as a nuisance rather than a great resource. See, this is interesting. The Militant Angel, flying and lifelink, total pain in the neck. And then we have some other interesting cards. You can pause, and I know, powerful. You can pause and have a look at the effects. Red deck, we have constructs, we have cards that will summon a lot of goblins. So this is a deck that has a lot of strength in numbers. Say this one, for example, is a powerful card. And the black deck also works in a similar way with some of the typical black deck things that you have, that you are able to summon a lot of people, a lot of zombies, but in which case they come from your graveyard. The Shivan Dragon, that's another guy that I remember from the very early days of Magic. It's always been powerful. But I play with red, so I don't see him as much of a nuisance. So goblins, in a certain sense almost archetypical, almost stereotypical. The black deck with zombies, the red deck with goblins. It is what it is. Again, think of this as an introduction of what can we use to show what are the staples of Magic the Gathering. And so you have here strength in numbers plus cards that will amplify the power of the final rank of your army. So I think the red deck is not overpowered, but and the decks are overall balanced, but this one is one that I like in particular and I find particularly powerful. The white and the red, probably. Then we have the black deck. Again, you're gonna see Liliana, you're gonna see stuff like the Death Baron, that again, just like the red deck, will increase the capability of a lot of the large number of low-level creatures that you will summon. Here, you will be okay with your creatures dying. Sometimes you send them to the graveyard, so that then you can take them from the graveyard and you can create zombies. And here's, look at this, you exile a creature from your graveyard, then you create a tap 2/2 zombie tokens, you put it together with the guy that makes the zombie stronger, you do that repeatedly, then you have a zombie factory that can be extremely powerful. Stitcher Supplier, just to give you a sense. You have the occasional human here and there that's like, what am I doing here? But still, it's gonna be mainly undead people. I see. Oh, this is a powerful creature because of the auto damage that gives to the player, and then again some more basic cards that you've probably seen before. Last but not least, although again we don't play with this one all that much for some reason, the blue deck that also has some interesting flyers, also creates constructs. The flying zombie, what? Ooh, that's scary. Beautiful art as usual, and again, art that I've seen before. These are mainly cards that are, as I said, well known. This is a powerful card. When you switcheroo control, you have a lot of these constructs. Again, some from cards directly, some will come as tokens. We have a legendary creature here with the Human Artificer. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, you create a 1/1 top-tier artifact creature, and then you can also sacrifice artifacts to draw cards. Let's see. That was upside down. You get a sense. I hope that you get a sense. What you get a sense is Magic. That is always, despite a huge popularity, it's hard to play casually. It's hard to play competitively and casually unless you use pre-constructed decks. And now you have a very viable, very easy way of doing it. And if you were to give, you want to give the gift of Magic to someone new, well, you give them a deck and then they have to go around and look for tokens and other stuff. Here you finally have Magic the Gathering with the mentality of a commonly, casually packaged, well, carefully packaged game for casual players. You can give it to absolute beginners and they will be able to learn the game and teach it to themselves from here, and they have all that you need to play. For my daughter Amelia and I, it's really a great set. We've been enjoying it a lot. She loves the white deck. From time to time I convince her to play with other decks, but the idea that I can just take this off the shelf and we just play Magic in a minute from the moment we take it off the shelf, it's a great advantage as opposed to let's go and look at the decks and choose a decks and find the tokens, etc, etc, etc. Magic the Gathering game night. Hardcore players may not be interested in this because probably they're gonna find extra copies of cards that are not that uncommon and so that they probably already own. But for somebody who wants to just begin the game, or you want to introduce somebody else to the game, or you want to play a little more casually, Magic the Gathering game night is definitely a great resource.